Hello, it's April 18th, 2025. My name is Ephraim Belknap, and I'm here to just talk about the recent project I just did, a scene from Richard III. Overall, I think this project went pretty well. I did it for a directing class. The assignment was, you could do anything basically, you just had to, be good and ambitious, and you had to fill out this type of paperwork. And I decided to go with Shakespeare because I've been looking at Shakespeare stuff recently, and I was thinking about scripts I had written and scripts and stuff that I could do. But if I had an option, I was like, I want to try out Shakespeare. I think that's something every good writer and director should be familiar with and be able to do. And this material, I think, is good because you can do it with just one person, and it's pretty rich. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, but also it's a role that I have specific thoughts about. And the way I had it set up was there was someone I knew in my orbit who was going to play the role. I thought it would be good for them, but unfortunately scheduling and a few other things just didn't work out with this person. And they ended up just going with myself. I'm an alright, deliverer or announcer or, just relayer of information, but that's not the same thing as acting, and I think, But, whatever, I tried it out. If you're familiar with Richard III, you kind of already have the vibe. Richard III is, one of the great villains of literature, and his deal is that he's someone who says that he feels shunned because of some disabilities, and then he turns around and he does 8 million schemes that destroy everyone around him and make him the king, but then things don't work out for him and then he dies. So, in looking at the original speech, which I've been looking at since I was probably 14, there's a lot of different ways to do it. A lot of great actors have done it. Of course, it's legendary material. Everyone's done it. Benedict Cumberbatch's I really liked. David Morrissey has a recording online. That's really cool. There's a third one I can't remember. There's an audio recording I heard, I think, from the Royal Shakespeare Company that's really influential for me in thinking about it. And I was thinking about kind of a contemporary Shakespeare work. Stuff like Romeo plus Juliet, but also Coriolanus, directed by Ralph Fiennes in, I think, 2011, 2012. And I was thinking about the type of person that might be Richard III. And I think that type of person could still exist today. So I was like, how would you portray that on film, and how would you make that interesting? And really my main thesis, and this is what I said in my assignment, this is what I said is, Richard III, in the very start of the play, makes a plea to the audience that says, essentially, I don't feel good about myself, so I'm going to go do this bad stuff. And so that's a moment of vulnerability with the audience. But then for the entire rest of the play, I don't know that he shows any real vulnerability. And my instinct now, thinking about that, is that he says that to the audience in the beginning to take advantage of their empathy so that they won't consider how evil he is. And I think people do that in real life too. They take advantage of people's empathy with fake or insincere displays of vulnerability. And that's really insidious. That's really messed up to do. So I don't see that a lot, frankly. And in looking at Richard III, I was like, I would like to see a version of that, or someone, or in some version of the film tradition, someone tries to articulate that and that idea. And that's what I ended up with. And I'm pretty proud of it. With one-man band projects like this, there's always thoughts you have about, what if this was done, what if that was done. But at the end of the day, you just got to accept that that's what you came up with. And all things considered, I think this was pretty good. The theater-adjacent kid in me is thinking, you messed up this delivery, or you messed up this one delivery, but who cares? To me, this is always about creating a mood and trying to create a sensation of just being slightly unsettled, but not so unsettled that you're confused, just that you can tell that you're unsettled. And I think that was achieved. I decided early on, I was like, well, we wanted to have some sign of him having some sort of disability, because, it's usually some sort of disability in adaptations. It's not always the same thing that it is in the original. And I think eye patches look cool, and that's in the top 20%. And I think you'd have a good beat where he reaches up to touch his face or something, and you see some fingers are missing, and you can't tell if it's from an injury or maybe it's congenital. And the eye patch and the fingers tie in with the idea I have, which is this version of the character, maybe he's always had these things missing, or maybe he got them in battle. the original Richard III was at war all the time and in battle. And so maybe these are actually, war wounds, which almost lends him a kind of nobility. But I keep it ambiguous. I'm not really expanding upon that, and I think it could be either way. And in a sense, it doesn't really matter, because the point is that the disability needs to be enough that you can see him having some feelings about it or feeling judged by it, but also it has to be not so great that it's truly a genuine disability. Because, as I said, I don't think Richard III, the version I'm envisioning, really feels bad about his disabilities. Not as bad as he says. He just says that to win sympathy. So it's a studied vulnerability, but it's not a genuine huge vulnerability. So the injuries and the disabilities aren't that bad. Not to downplay missing fingers or missing an eye. That seems pretty serious. But yeah, I went through like 5 iterations of the eye patch and like 4 iterations of the finger stubs, and I was like, oh, let's use this type of tape, let's use that type of tape. The eye patch is too big, the eye patch needs to be trimmed down some more. And what I ended up with was I trimmed a lot off the eye patch, and then I put the bandage under it because I thought, well, the eye patch is too big. It's kind of dominating the face. We need to be smaller so the face gets more room to actually be a face. But also, I wanted to put some white under it. I wanted to just be the white bandage originally because white, I think, reflects better on camera than black. And white kind of feels like more like a good guy. And so I wanted that vibe of, oh, maybe this is a good guy. And so I ended up with a compromise with black eye patch over and bandage under, surrounding. Overall, I like this project. It was fun, it was interesting. I got to do Shakespeare, which I haven't gotten to do in a while, or work on anything Shakespeare related in a while. And the editing process was super satisfying because I had options, and when I went in, I knew I had a bunch of ideas about, oh, here's a bunch of ways you could handle this aspect, or this aspect, or this aspect. And basically everything I thought about I ended up using, so that's always fun. I don't know if I'll get the greatest grade on this one because I turned it in a little late because I know I had just a few things going on. Mostly just senioritis. But I'm feeling good about it. Really is an interesting play. Recommend.